welcome to yet another episode of Mad About Markets. And this one, I think Mangalam is most excited about.
Yeah, but what's with your voice, Ritu?
I mean, I'm just under the weather, but what's with your face and what are those glasses?
It's my look, Ritu. We're planning to, work on our appearances. At least I am.
You think that is working?
I'm not too sure.
We will hear from our audiences later.
But what's working is the attention that men are increasingly giving to their skin and hair.
Yes.
Notwithstanding me, but a bunch of them. And that's exactly...
They're trying. And self-care is becoming more and more commonplace, and especially thanks to the rise of social media. I think it's becoming more acceptable for us as a society.
So let's delve deep into it. Men's grooming, that's on top of mind. And you know what? It was extremely interesting for me to look through all the numbers from the listed companies that came this time around in the fourth quarter. And in that, this was a trend that was really visible. We had Imami. They had quite a remarkable year. The male grooming business for them, in fact, did about 29% growth in the fourth quarter. The Man Company, a company which they acquired, has a 40% jump. It's over 200 crores in terms of revenue. And they are targeting even greater heights, almost 50 to 60% growth in FY24 as well. And that's ambition. Marico, on the other hand, they've acquired Beardo as well. Their 100% subsidiary did 100 crore plus revenue in FY23 as well. And they expect growth to continue there too. FSN e-commerce, Nykaa as we know it, for women mostly, but their men's vertical, the others part of their results, Nykaa Men plus others, grew 204% in FY23. So there's definitely making waves in the market. Ustra, which saw some investment coming in from Info Edge in the later part of the year, saw a remarkable doubling of revenue in 2023 as well, FY23 that is, and more than that, they target 100% growth over the next 2 years. So there's some serious determination and opportunity and the numbers that are showing in men's grooming.
And this is all very recent because up until a few years back, there wasn't this kind of a growth. In fact, there weren't so many players in the market. But let's step back and look at the bigger picture here. Like we do always, male grooming has come a long way. It used to be a lukewarm category, just a footnote, limited product options. You have men using their wives or their sisters or their mother's products in the bathroom. But boy, have times changed. The male population constitutes a significant 52% share, but the revenue of the personal care sector stands at a noteworthy 11%, and it's set to grow from here. So safe to say, male grooming at least is here to stay, if not grow much more.
Not grow, but it definitely here to stay. And we have a lot of players coming in as well. It's the perfect time to introduce our guests on the show. Today we have Sukhleen Aneja, CEO of Glamm Group, joining in, Sujot Malhotra of Beardo as well. And we are joined by Deepak Gupta, who of course co-founded and is currently the COO of Bombay Shaving Company. Let's go to the lady first. Sukhleen, could you give us a sense of your plans with regards to men's grooming? Glamm currently not actively present, but what's the growth that you're sensing here and your strategy for the same?
So currently we don't have a business in male grooming. That's a business that we are very keen on building, because clearly if you see the male grooming industry, it's poised to have a CAGR of anywhere between 10 to 11%. It's a double-digit CAGR that the industry is expected to grow at. It's a large market. And clearly it's an area that we find extremely, extremely relevant. You would have seen in the recent news, we've just announced a joint venture with Akshay Kumar. So we will be making a foray in male grooming as a segment together with Akshay as a JV that we are working on. So watch the space to get more updates from us.
Well, double-digit compounded growth is impressive. But Sujot, what is the average spend per male customer today versus, say, what females would be spending? And to what extent, if at all, has this gap reduced?
I don't have access to this data. We don't subscribe to industry data, and I don't know what women spend on. I only know what is the average spend that we see in our business, and that's around 500 rupees odd. And it's been steadily increasing over a period of time. What's been increasing is essentially the basket of goods that men are, or frequency of purchases that they're doing online. That seems to be growing over a period of time, and hence overall the amount of money spent online on grooming by men is definitely seeing an uptick.
Deepak, how about you at the Bombay Shaving Company? Non-metro growth versus metro's growth. Which one is growing faster, and what is the fastest growing market for you?
So I will divide this into two parts, pre-COVID and post-COVID. I think pre-COVID, metro was growing at very fast pace. I think post-COVID or during COVID, I think a lot of non-metro consumers started shopping online because we are an online first brand. We see that consumers are getting exposed to lot of newer product categories from the smaller towns also. So now if we look at our business split, 50% comes from metro and roughly same business comes from non-metro, which used to be roughly 75-25 3 years back. So a huge shift that is happening. I think one interesting thing on metro is your average order values are higher because this growing trend on don't have kids but high disposable income. The men is spending far more on their grooming, and even the time spent on the grooming is very similar to the female member. We believe that will keep catching up in metros, but non-metros has grown very fast as well.
All right, Deepak, just hang in there. We'll come to you in a bit. But the important thing is, what are the factors driving growth in this market? There are several key drivers. And the biggest one of them, of course, is the increased awareness around men's skincare, hair care, the difference between products made for men and made for women itself. Men are now more conscious of taking care of themselves. Secondly, beards. I mean, social, cultural change. Remember the 90s India cricket team? Not many had a beard. In fact, just 2 had mustaches. And this is the 2019 World Cup squad where nearly the entire team, and now as we look at the World Test Championship, the entire team has a beard itself. So it's impressive how, a simple change in trend can actually bring about a new market itself, the beard care market. Thirdly, launch of new age brands and innovative products have been a game changer. We've had more brands enter the market, cater specifically to the evolving needs of the male audience, offering them a wide range of grooming options. Earlier, it was just, the shaving creams and some lotions here and there. Additionally, everyone's got higher disposable incomes. It's allowed more investment in self-care and grooming. And when you have the means, why not pamper yourself a little bit itself? And finally, we cannot ignore the power of digital connectivity, a theme that we speak about very often here on Mad About Markets. E-commerce, the ease of online shopping. They buy it online only to look good and put pictures online as well. So social media has also made a big difference to the male grooming market itself. So what is the size of this market? Just look at, Euromonitor's estimates. As of 2021, it was a 12,500 crore category, growing all the way up to 15,000 crore right now as we speak in 2023. And by 2026, it could be almost 20,000 crores. And what does this 12,500 crore as of 2021 comprise of? Majority of it is still shaving. Shaving has around 43% share. Toiletries account for 42%, and fragrances currently 15% are likely to grow much faster. So the expected compounded annual growth rate for all these categories, for it to reach 20,000 crore, it will be largely contributed by, it will be fragrances which will grow between 12 to 13%. Toiletries growing around 10 to 11%. Shaving, because of the increasing acceptance of facial hair, likely to grow just between 6 to 7 odd percent. So, this is how it is, Ritu.
It's interesting that after all of this growth of the grooming industry, it's still shaving that men are buying, right? Like, that's one of the largest segments.
Men are functional human beings. They just go ahead and buy exactly what they need. And that's why it's important to take a quick look inside the male grooming kit itself. It's the shaving segment, which is expected to cross the 7,300 crore mark. But currently, it is a little higher in contribution than toiletries. Come 2026, toiletries is expected to surpass that. 8,800 crore is what it is expected to go. And fragrances, which is likely to grow extremely fast. By 2026, it'll be over a 3,300 crore category.
Well, there's more in men's shaving kit than we'd imagine. So let's look at those components as well. For instance, the body wash and hairstyling segments are expected to cross 700 crores by 2026 as per Nielsen, followed by face wash, beard care, face cream, closer to the 500 crore mark. But if we were to talk about the women's segment, I don't think we'd have enough space on this wall. So that's the kind of differentiation we're speaking about. But Deepak, really, coming back to you, the perception and acceptance of grooming for men, how has it changed in the last few years?
So male grooming as a category has evolved a lot in last 10 years, I will say. And that's where you saw brands like Bombay Shaving Company and even some of the other new age brands came up. I think there are two things that is happening. One is just the growing consciousness on feel good and look good is going up. When I say look good, because the younger men are on social media apps, Tinder a lot more. So there's a pressure on looking good, and that's why they're looking for products and brands which can kind of help them achieve that. Second is just the entire feeling of self-care and feel good is going up. So now men are spending a lot more on their grooming and their self-care than what they were doing 10 years back. So I think these are kind of two broad changes that have happened in last 10 years.
Well, men spending a lot more, and how? But Sukhleen, how much do you think is the leakage from women's categories by men users?
So if I can tell you specifically online, we have a brand called Saint Botanica. So today, post-COVID and post the pandemic world, more and more men are inclined towards using better brands, getting a lot more ingredient transparency, label transparency, and they are choosing brands and are becoming a lot more discerning than they ever were. Earlier, the entire category was very restricted to functional product use, which is now moving towards functional plus sensorial because men are also demanding more. So if you see a brand like Saint Botanica within our portfolio, it has a male usership as high as 40 to 45%. And these are products which are scalp care, prebiotic, products which are for skin care. So these products are being used extensively by the male grooming brands.
Okay, now that we know that the market is growing, let's also get into strategy. Because Sujot, for instance, you started as an online-only brand, but then you expanded offline as well. I mean, what was the strategy? What was the learning? Is it not enough to be an online-only player, or is the target customer itself, very different across these channels?
While we've always seen that tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities are contributing more to sales, or growing more in percentage to sales. But what is definitely distinct about the town class behavior is that when you go to higher town classes like metros, they are so much more comfortable paying online for their purchase. So their purchases are usually, paid upfront. Versus as you go down the town classes, the percentage contribution of consumers who actually prefer cash on delivery goes up. And that's also a large, reason why offline retail does become important for those consumers who are basically not comfortable buying online. Plus, there's also a relatively large consumer set who likes to touch and feel the product before they end up buying it. And that's really been the two large, factors that have influenced our presence offline.
All right, we take that point. Here on Mad About Markets, we follow the money, and there has been a lot of money chasing the men's grooming industry itself. So interesting mergers and acquisitions that have taken place in this industry. Let's talk about Marico itself. We heard from Beardo, right? They have acquired the remaining 55%, so now it's a 100% owned company by Marico itself. Imami increased its stake to 50.4% in June 2021 in the Man company. Thereafter, we have the Bombay Shaving Company as well, raising almost 210 crore from GII and Malabar. This happened as late as Feb 2022. InfoEdge, we spoke about Ustra Men doubling their revenue and looking to double even further, right? In September 2022, we had InfoEdge investing about 16.8 crore in that as well. And finally, the most recent big one that happened was GCPL acquiring Raymond's consumer business, which houses the male grooming Park Avenue brand for about 2,825 crores. So a bunch of M&A activity taking place. That's telling you about the opportunity, Ritu.
Well, it's interesting, Manglam, you highlight how these larger players are looking to acquire stake in some of the startups. But Deepak, let me come to you. On one hand, you have Marico, Godrej, Imami, deep-pocketed, wide reach, and then you have hundreds of startups that are mushrooming in the space. What is your moat when you compete with larger players like this?
Yeah, I think our moat is, one is make products which give happiness to the consumer. I think now, especially for the new age ingredients like charcoal, coffee, consumer don't want to buy products from mass brands. Even I mentioned about beard category. I think Nivea, Godrej, Himalaya, all of these brands have launched a beard category and then they have to take the stock back because it didn't work for them. Right now they are not present in that category, but brands like us and some of the other competitors which are new age brands continue to do well in the category. So clearly I think there is a consumer who now want to associate with the brand beyond products and the mass media marketing they do.
All right, point taken. But Sukhleen, is it a category that's still driven by direct to consumer and modern trade? And what are the steps that larger players are taking here apart from acquiring startups?
So I think if you look at the two segments which have a mass GT outreach, one is clearly deodorants, where you see there's a very, very mass outreach, especially what players like ITC did was to create those pocket-sized formats which allowed a large rural adoption of the category as well. So that's one space which really developed. Second is the space of razors. right? Which is where, again, you can see the entire shaving and grooming part of the portfolio, which has gone deep from a penetration standpoint. But where I think lies the opportunity really is pure personal care, which is where, if you see, it's only the top end of the market which is really proliferated. So within a face wash segment, which is a good 3,000 to 4,000 crore segment, you still see a very small subset of men's specific products which are being consumed. So I think that is where, for brands like us, there's a massive opportunity to target not just tier 1, but tier 2 India. And see, what online brands also tend to do is to make the products available wide and deep. So today, even for Glamm as a company, we are today present across nearly 20,000 pin codes. So from an access standpoint, online brands are targeting the tier 2 India, the tier 3 India as well. Important thing really is, how do you create a scalable business and a scalable, repeatable business? That, I think, remains a big opportunity.
All right, Sukhleen, thanks a lot for that. In fact, on that note, let's take a short break. On the other side, we discuss the yays and the mays, the opportunities and risks in the men's grooming industry. And
as always, we're going to ask the bigger question, because that is what we do here on Mad About Markets, and that is on your screens right now. What's blooming in men's grooming?